Welcome back to Next Gen Console Watch 2020, our new show following all the news and rumors on the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. I'm Jamin Hatfield, and I'm joined today by Jonathan Dornbush, host of IGN's PlayStation podcast, Podcast Beyond.
Hey there.
And Ryan McCaffrey, host of IGN's Xbox podcast, Podcast Unlocked.
What's happening?
And the big news this week was the Unreal Engine 5 tech demo running on a PlayStation 5 that we got earlier in the week. I don't know about you guys, but it was pretty exciting for me to see some next-gen footage that actually looked next-gen. Jonathan, what'd you think?
It had a lot of familiar beats. I think that anyone who's played a third-person action game like Uncharted or Tomb Raider or Horizon, there were a lot of gameplay moments and beats that felt like they were trying to say, hey, you know those moments? What if they looked this much better? And this sort of felt like the true evolution, I think, of what we were hoping to see in gameplay trailers and stuff that we maybe haven't gotten in the last couple.
And Ryan, what was your impression?
Definitely impressive, but I've been around a long time and I'm inherently a little skeptical because it's a tech demo. We've been down this road before, both good and bad, but mostly tech demos tend to not end up being quite as realistic. I mean, I can point you back to the Killzone thing from the PS3, the Madden thing from, I guess that was heading into the 360 generation, Unreal Warfare, which would later become Gears of War, but there's no AI plugged into this. There's no, this isn't a full game. So it's super impressive. And the lighting was incredible. And I have no doubt we're going to see some really great stuff in time. Even this engine's not due out till sometime in 2021. Right. But yeah, I just want to try and set the expectation that it's not a game yet.
Yeah, sure. This was a very specific demo, and they did say it was playable and was meant to be played at GDC, but it is a very small slice that was engineered to exactly show off all of these bits and pieces, and there is no larger game framework around that the PS5 would have to worry about computing or taking care of. So yeah, it's definitely worth keeping in mind the context of what we're being shown here.
It's worth noting that if you revisit the Unreal 4 engine tech demo from 2013, about 6 months before the PlayStation 4 was released, when you look at that now, it's clear that this generation of games surpassed the level of graphical detail that you saw in that tech demo. So it is entirely possible that in a few years, 3 or 4 years from now, next-gen games will be able to match what we saw in that demo this morning and perhaps even exceed that. What do you think about that, Ryan?
Yeah, I have no doubt we will get there in time. I mean, Microsoft's been setting the expectation that, hey, this is going to be the current generation is going to be supported for a while. So how impressive this new generation coming up is going to be out of the gate remains to be seen. But really, with every generation, we always get more impressive stuff as time goes on and developers get a second or even third go around with the same hardware. But what's cool about this too is, this was showcased as a PlayStation 5 tech demo, but Unreal Engine 5's on everything. So you're going to see everything you saw there, you will be seeing on the Series X as well. So it just bodes well for the next generation across the board.
That's true. However, a lot of Sony fans today are seeing this as a win for PlayStation because it's aligned with PlayStation. How do you respond to that, Ryan?
It'll look exactly the same on the Xbox. I mean, sure, have a win today, I guess, because it had Sony's name on it. But it's any game that's running, any multi-platform game that's running UE5 is going to look just as good on the Series X. So again, everybody's going to end up happy at the end of the day.
It's a marketing win right now. Like it is in the way that we see usually at E3s and similar conferences of big games being associated, big multi-platform games being associated with either Xbox or PlayStation at the beginning or end of a trailer. This is similar where everyone is now sort of associating this with PS5, but right as Ryan is saying, games on Xbox Series X will use Unreal Engine 5. So this is more of a, I think, like short-term sort of marketing win for Sony, but in the long run, I don't think it'll matter too much. This demo, I think, really would have gone well hand in hand with Mark Cerny's former GDC talk that ended up posting online. There were bits and pieces of PS5 tech he was talking in there about that could have really used some examples, and this demo almost felt built to show some of those examples, like 3D audio or some of the loading time things they've been discussing. It really felt like, man, I wish that Cerny talk had just clips of this playing in the background, because I think that would have gone over so much better.
Yeah, I think you are Exactly right. We actually got some comments from Tim Sweeney from Epic today. They said he had said that Sony's storage architecture for the PlayStation 5 is far ahead of the best SSD solution you can buy on PC today. This is a quote. And so it's really exciting to be seeing the console market push forward the high-end PC market in this way. He's saying the PS5 SSD is considerably more powerful than current high-end PCs. How does that strike you, Ryan? Does that seem plausible?
Absolutely. I mean, Sony's what we've been hearing from developers is that the hard drive situation, the loading on PS5 is going to be one of its strongest suits. That is a custom solution that is going to be even faster than what Microsoft is doing with its also custom SSD solution. So I have no doubt that what Sony's cooking up there is going to be really good, and it'll be interesting to see how much of a difference that will make in multi-platform games. Are you going to see, any kind of significant difference or more minor difference? And it kind of even applies to the Xbox Series X's power too. Like, is it going to be running in slightly higher resolution, slightly higher frame rate, or it's I just can't wait for these things to actually come out so we can start seeing how they really truly compare to each other.
Jonathan, we've talked a lot about how Sony's been relatively quiet about their plans for PlayStation 5 all this time when Xbox has been a little bit more transparent. Actually seeing something running on the PlayStation 5 today and having it look so impressive, does that get you excited?
Absolutely. I mean, again, like I was saying, I wish Sony was kind of putting themselves forward with the discussion of all this stuff. Like the biggest beats of PS5 info we've gotten in recent weeks are from an Inside Xbox and an Unreal Engine Epic showcase, where you'll see Sony executives retweet this stuff, and I just wish they were at the forefront of this. They were pushing some of this marketing. And obviously, we know they're going to have to at some point tell us what's going on with the PS5, show us games, show us all of that. But so I'll take any PlayStation 5 news right now. And so to see something that is supposed to be running on a PS5, even if it is this very contained, meant to showcase sort of demo, it still gets me excited, especially knowing Sony first party uses a wide range of engines, like the Decima engine, which is proprietary from Gorilla. So to know that this is something that is being used for multi-platform, I can't wait to see what the first party devs end up doing with their own engine.
Jonathan, do any of the Sony first party, the PlayStation studios, use Unreal, to your knowledge?
I believe Bend Studio did for Days Gone.
Okay.
They used a modified version of Unreal, but they were able to take it and sort of make it work for that game in particular. They actually told us a few really fun stories when IGN's John Ryan went to go preview that game about sort of how Unreal doesn't really allow for motorcycles, and so they had to jerry-rig half of an invisible car on top of Deacon's motorcycle in order to make it run. So definitely there are some Sony studios that have familiarity with Unreal and will probably start to use Unreal Engine 5, but we've seen Decima become increasingly more important with Gorilla and that tech being shared with the Death Stranding team. So I wouldn't be surprised if we continue to see more proprietary engine use by PlayStation.
All right, well, we have some updates on the launch of next-gen consoles. Of course, there's this ongoing question of if or how much the ongoing pandemic will affect the launch of both the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. This week, we got comments from Sony, which said PlayStation 5 remains on track for its holiday 2020 release. Game develop has seen no major issues due to the COVID-19 outbreak. The quote was, "At this point in time, major problems have not arisen in the game software development pipeline for Sony's own first-party studios or its partner studios." Jonathan, do you read that to mean there is a number of first-party titles that are planned to launch with the PS5?
I would say it means there is at least a first-party title. I don't want to get too ahead because we've seen Sony really let its first parties take their time with games this generation. Whether it's Sony Santa Monica with God of War, whether it's The Last of Us Part 2 and Uncharted 4 for Naughty Dog, or Ghost of Tsushima with Sucker Punch, Sony is okay with its studios taking a bit of time. So I do think we will see at least one, maybe two first-party games at launch that needs to be there. But I don't think we're going to see, 6 or 7 first-party games out the gate. I think they are going to let the really big heavy hitters roll out when they're ready to be rolled out over the next few years.
And over on the Xbox side, Phil Spencer commented on whether or not games will be affected by the ongoing pandemic. And he said that while things are looking good for games this year, we will see the impact of COVID-19 on the industry going into early 2021. This is due to important areas of game production having stopped work entirely during quarantine. And he's talking about things like motion capture and audio recording. His quote was, if you're waiting for either large audio work with its symphonies and other things, or mocap, you're held up right now and you're making progress in areas that you are. But yeah, that's a good point. Large symphonies are not going to be gathering together in one room anytime soon, right, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, it makes perfect sense. And the same thing with motion capture. Mocap scenes often have their performance, it's full performance capture now with, the face work and the body work. And those can be scenes with, 3, 4, 5, 6 people. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if the launch lineups are probably pretty well set for both of these consoles. But that sort of the rest of that launch window could end up being maybe a little more sparse than was originally planned. It wouldn't surprise me at all. Now, I mean, Phil was on our show here at Next Gen Console Watch about a month or so back, talking about how they want to have they don't want to overload launch day, but have a more steady trickle of games from the first party side. So I'm curious if his comments kind of will impact that at all.
Well, 2020, pre-pandemic 2020 had a slow start for big games. So we'll see if 2021 repeats that pattern. We actually have a new poll for the audience this week. We want to know, how important are upgraded graphics to your next-gen experience? Make sure to vote in our poll at IGN.com. We will share the results with you next week. We have the results of last week's poll. We asked, which newly revealed or reintroduced game from inside Xbox are you most excited for? You had choices, things like Scarlet Nexus, Call of the Sea, Bright Memory Infinite, but you chose Scorn with just about a quarter of the overall vote. And that was a game that we actually didn't see gameplay for. We just saw a very gross looking trailer. Does that choice surprise you, Jonathan?
Not particularly. I think seeing how our audience tends to react. We have a pretty big horror game audience on IGN, and I do think that was definitely one of the more evocative trailers. So even though it wasn't gameplay, we were getting a lot of mood pieces and tone pieces when it came to those trailers. And I think that was one of, whether or not you wanted to see what it was showing off, it was one of the more memorable trailers from that showcase. And so I'm not surprised that one ended up at the top.
I think people do want to see what it's showing off, myself included. Yes. And that will about do it for this edition of Next Gen Console Watch 2020. Thank you to both Ryan and Jonathan. We will be back next Friday at 6 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Eastern with more news and rumors on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. We'll see you then. Beginning in June, watch IGN's exclusive Summer of Gaming content for the latest and greatest in game reveals, news, trailers, next-gen coverage, and more. Tune in wherever you like to watch IGN or on IGN One on your Samsung TVs.